Hello everyone, welcome to attend this webinar. I'm Jessie. This webinar I'm going to introduce the new China FCM regulation system. Last month, the China authorities has issued 52 FCM standards, which you can find on our website. The release of these standards includes China's FCM regulation system. Okay, let's start today's webinar. First, let's take a look at the outline. First of all, I will introduce the definition of FCM in China and give an overview of the new China FCM system. Then I will analyze several important standards, including the general safety requirements for food contact materials and articles, and the general rules of migration test for FCM, as well as GB 9685/2016, which most of you may have heard about it. And I will also introduce some product standards. Last, I will give a case study about how to do regulatory compliance under the new FCM system. First, let's see the definition of FCM in China. Under the normal use condition, materials or articles which is already contact with food or food additives, or have the possibility to come into contact with food or transfer their hazardous ingredients into food. It includes food packaging materials, containers, tools, and equipment that are contact with food in the process of food producing, processing, packaging, transportation, storage, sales, and use. Besides this, proteins, inks, adhesives, and etc. that are contact with food directly or indirectly are included too. Detergents, disinfectants, and the public water facilities are excluded. After understanding the definition of FCM, I'm going to give you an overview of the new China food contact materials and articles regulation system. Actually, it is quite similar with EU regulation system, and the China FCM system can be classified into 4 parts. There are general standards, manufacturing practice, which is called the GMP standards, and the product standards, and the last one is testing standards. The general standards has the same status like EC number 1935/2004, and the manufacturing practice GMP standards is just like the EC number 2023/2006. The product standards have the same status with EU number 10/2011. The plastic standards. Let's look into details. There are 2 standards in general standards. The first standard is GB 2806.1/2016 National Food Safety Standards, General Safety Requirements for Food Contact Materials and Articles. And the second standard is GB 9685/216, the additive standards, which most of you may familiar with it. Later, I will give a detailed introduction about these 2 standards. The second part is the GMP standards. Its standard number is GB 31603/2015. Please note that all FCM in China shall comply with these 3 standards. Then comes to the product standards. You can see that there are about 10 product standards. including nipple, enamels, ceramic, glass, plastic resins, plastic materials and articles, paper, paperboard and paper articles, metal, coatings, and rubber materials and articles. You may find that it's not including all the product types like inks and adhesives. But how inks and adhesives be regulatory compliant? Let's talk about this issue later. And the last part is the testing standards. Please note that the first two standards, GB 31604.1 2015 and GB 5009.156 2016, they are the general standards in the testing. All the migration tests shall comply with these two standards. Others are the specific test method standards, like the colorization test, determination of total migration, and heavy metal test, and etc. Let's come to the next part. I'm going to introduce the general safety requirements for fully conductive materials and articles, which standard number is GB 4806.1 2016. It's a very important standard, and as I just said, all FCM in China shall comply with these standards. Here is the standard structures. They are scope, terms and definitions, basic requirements, limited requirements, compliance principles, testing methods, traceability, and the product information. First, the scope of this standard is quite similar with the structures, and the application is just like I emphasized. This applies to all FCM in China. Let's see the basic requirements. 1. The level of substances that transfer to food shall not be hazardous to human health. 2. Substances that migrate into food should not cause changes in properties such as composition, texture, color, and flavor of food, and shall not create a technical function for food. 3. The manufacturer should introduce non-intentional added substances, which is called NICE, into the product. Make sure that the substances transferred to food meet the above two requirements. And for substances which not in the list of corresponding national food safety standards, if there is indirect impact with food and with effective barrier, manufacturers shall carry out the risk assessment, and the SMAR shall not exceed 0.01 milligram per kilogram. 5. The production of FCM shall comply with the requirement of the GMP standards. To save time, I'm just going to introduce several parts of these standards, which I think it should be well noted. The next part I'm going to introduce is compliance principles. First, the use of raw materials should be consistent with the corresponding national food safety standards and related provisions of the notice. Second, the use of additives should comply with the provisions of GB 9685 and the related provisions of the notice. 3. the product shall comply with the provisions of corresponding national food safety standards. The test method. The migration test shall comply with the provision of GB 3160.04.1 and GB 5009.156, unless otherwise specified in the product standards, which means that the product has a priority. If there is no specific national standards testing method, other methods which is verified by well-proven techniques may be used. The product information is also need to be noted. Let's have a look at it. First, product should provide duplicate product information, including labels, brochures, and other identification contents and the product specification to ensure adequate information for risk assessment. Second, the identification shall include the product name, materials, DOC, which is called the Declaration of Compliance, name, address, and contact of producer and distributor, date of manufacture and shelf life, etc. The DOC, the Declaration of Compliance, shall include the regulations and the standards to be followed. The list of restricted substances and their respective requirements, and the total migration compliance. Last, finished product should be marked food contact with packaging or similar terms, or print with spoon and chopsticks logo, just like this logo. But products which there is a clear purpose for food contact, like chopsticks, forks, are excluded. Well, let's look at another standards. General rules of migration test for food contact materials and articles. Here is the standard structures. And the scope is this standard specifies general requirements for the migration test of various types of food contact materials and articles. And I think there are 4 key considerations. There are food or food stimulants, contact temperature, contact time, and the ratio of contact area and stimulant volume. If the FCM product is attend to contact with the specific food category, then the choice of food stimulants shall comply with this table. And if the FCM product is attend to contact with a variety of food, then the choice of food stimulants shall comply with this table. And here is the table for the choice of migration test temperature, and this is the table for the choice of migration test time. Then I'm going to introduce another important standards, GB 9685/2016. Actually, this version is quite similar with the draft GB 9685. Therefore, here I'm just going to compare this version to the 2008 version. Here is the standard structures. Compared with the old version, the main change in this version is listed below. First, this version has revised the user principle, and second, it adjusted the format of the Annex A, and the number of listed additives in Annex A is increased from 958 to 1,294. The 4 points. This version has enlarged the range of additives allowed to be used as food contact materials and articles. We should well note this point. 5. This version has revised the requirement of tolerant priority in Annex A, and also added the requirement of total specific migration limit, and also added the requirements on special restrictions of metallic elements. Okay, let's look into the details. First, it revised the usual principles. When food contact materials and articles are contacted with food in recommended condition, the additives and impurities which migrate to food shall not be harmful to human flesh. And the additives which migrate to the food shall not affect the food composition, structure, color, aroma, taste, and other properties. If the expected effect has been fulfilled, the dosage of the additives in food contact materials and the articles shall be as low as possible. The quality of additives shall meet the corresponding quality requirements. Last, substances listed in GB 9760. Actually, the substance is listed in table A.2 of GB 2760 is also allowed to use as additives used in food contact materials and articles, and they shall not have technical function to the food contact itself. Here, the GB 2760 is the food additive standards. The second main change is that this version has adjusted the format of Annex A. The Annex A has divided into 7 parts. They are plastic, coating, rubber, ink, adhesive, paper, and others. The Annex A also has been added 3 columns. They are the FCA number and the SMLT requirement, and also the SMLT classification number. This version also added some substances and deleted some substances. And the added substances is 364 new additives, and enlarged the use scope of 198 additives. These added additives comes from these 5 notices, and the deleted additives are listed here. This version has also enlarged the range of additives allowed to be used as food protective materials and articles, which is very important. Let's look into the details. First, in the absence of a chemical reaction, the mixture of substances listed in tables A.1 to A.7, these mixtures can also be used. And second, under the condition of not affecting the natural properties of food, the substances listed in table A.2 of GB 2760/2014 can be used as food contact additives as well. 3. The sodium salt, calcium salt, and potassium salt forms of the acid, alcohol, and phenol substances listed in Annex A can also be used as food contact materials. 5. The crystalline hydrate of the substances listed in this annex can be used as food contact materials. Food contact additives. 5. The approved polymer, which molecular weight higher than 1,000 Dalton, can be used as food contact additives in the same approved scope. Please be note that they should be in the same approved scope. The last part should be noted as that they've added the requirement on special instructions of metallic elements. The approved additives containing below elements should also comply with the requirements listed in this table, and the special migration test of these metallic elements in this table only applicable to the approved additives containing these metallic elements in this standard. If 2 or more additives contain the same elements, the total migration limit of them should also meet the requirement on this table. Now I'm going to introduce some product standards. Actually, product standards clearly guide you how to comply with the Chinese regulation. Let's take GB 4806.11/2016 rubber materials and articles as an example. Here is the scope and the terms and the definition. The short part here is basic requirements. It tells us that the rubber products shall comply with the requirements in GB 4806.1, and the technical requirements clearly tell us the raw materials shall comply with the provision of Annex A and other relevant announcements, and also the GB 4806.6 Appendix A and relevant announcements. And also tells us the rubbers shall comply with the sensory requirements and the physical and the chemical index, and also the additives. The additives shall comply with 9685 and other related regulations. Part 5 tells us the migration test requirements and the label requirements. Annex A listed the requirements for raw materials of food contact rubber material. The Appendix A listed the requirements for raw materials of food contact rubber materials and products. There are two tables. Table A.1 tells us the base polymer for succinic rubber shall comply with the table A.1, and table A.2 tells us the requirements of the base polymer for acrylic rubbers. We can see that these are the existing product standards, which I just said. It's 10 products, and this product, bamboo, wood, and cork materials and articles, is the draft product standards. In additives, composite materials is the product materials which be injected. However, ink, lubricant, texture, fiber, and etc. This product which is not established. So, how a product which not has a product standard become regulatory compliant? Here is a compliance case study on the new regulatory system. Let's take adhesive as an example. First, the adhesives shall comply with the basic requirements. Basic standards, they are the GB 4806.1 2016 and the GMP standards, GB 31603 215. Second, we should check if the raw materials and the additives are in the positive list. The additive raw materials should check the list of 107 approved food contact regions in China, and the notices of newly approved food contact additives released by NHFPC, and the additives added in adhesives shall comply with GB. Shall check the GB 9685 216. Then we should check if the raw materials and adhesives comply with the requirements. First, confirm that the requirements about raw materials and the restricted substances. Then choose the applicable method to obtain the result of restricted substances. These two standards. Step 4, we should check if the label and the product information are regulatory compliant. The compliant standard is GB 4806.1 2016. This fourth step is for product which not has product standards. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.